And joins us to talk some Southern Miss Golden Eagles football as Southern Miss opens at home on Saturday against Alcorn State. What kind of crowds there going to be on Saturday for the opener? This should be pretty good, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it always is. Whenever SWAC teams come to Rock, of course, they travel well inside the state, and it's a night kickoff, which helps. And I think if you get north of 25. Of course, they're all wanting to pack the Rock, and I think you come back to the Tulane game in 2 weeks, which is an afternoon kickoff, and you really hope that this one is attended well because you feel like that one should be, Tulane being a top 25 team. So, anything north of 25, I think that's what would be positive.
It would be a good start to the year. So you guys had Will Hall on the Eagle Hour. Was that today or yesterday?
Yesterday.
Just kind of some final thoughts from him as you get ready for the start of the season. Was there any big takeaway for you?
They released the final depth chart. He came on right before that happened, and he just kind of spoke at length about how satisfied they are at depth. Not much changed with the depth chart, but we talked at length with him about the secondary. One guy shoot in Quez McNeil at the field corner. The safeties with Jay Stanley and Dylan Lawrence, and then he hasn't announced the boundary corner yet, be MJ Daniels or Michael Caraway. The reason I bring that up is Quez McNeil is the only starter or potential starter that is under 6 feet. When you look at the height they have in this secondary, Stanley 6'2" at the safety, Dylan Lawrence is 6'4". He's listed at 6'4", and whether MJ Daniels or Michael Caraway start at the boundary corner, both of those guys are 6'2", and they just feel really good about a secondary that lost multiple starters. Brandon Hayes on the offensive side has jumped Frog Jones to start a receiver. He's a guy that was dinged up last year, and he's a guy that Will Hall said with all the injuries, that was the one that nobody really talked about. Hayes was out of Oak Grove, and he's a speedster. That's what Latrell Frog Jones is as well. But Hayes should be starting. And then, of course, the infamous Superback listed on there. We knew it was going to be listed. And not just for teams to prep for that, but I think there will be, maybe not in this game, but I think there will be times this year where you'll see the Superback.
All right. We talked about quarterback last week, obviously, with the announcement that it's going to be Billy Wiles. And, I wonder how things change after that announcement happens. And I don't mean in terms of relationships, but if you've been in a battle, Luke, for a job, and it's like truly a battle, not just one of those where a coach says it's a battle and everybody else knows what's going to happen, but you are truly competing for a job. If there is a boost of confidence and like a big exhale and it's like, okay, now it's time to go get ready for the season. I just wonder what maybe the last week or so has been like for Billy Wiles after that announcement from his head coach.
Yeah, Bob talked to Billy at practice today, and Billy just, wasn't anxious, wasn't nervous. He was just kind of, okay, let's go and get it. And that's kind of where he's been since he was announced as the starter. I do think, kind of follow up, because we talked about this today, I do think Holman Edwards is going to play in this game, particularly, if the first half goes very well. And so, it's one of those things. At what point do you take Wiles out for protection, but to take Wiles out and let Edwards get game reps? Because, this is not a shot at Alcorn State, but you're in theory, your scrimmages, you've been facing a better defense than what you're going to face Saturday. You've been facing an FBS defense. Saturday, you're facing an FCS defense. So obviously the thing that changes is it counts now. So how does Wiles and the first team offense, how do they what do they do when it counts? But I do think Edwards will play in this game, and I think that will allow the reps, that are needed that we, from situations we've seen the last few years.
If you'll allow me to forecast just for a second, there is a scenario, and this is probably a bad idea in today's college football because you see transfers come and go, and you don't know about health, and football is a violent game and all of those things. But we did this with Will Rogers a couple of years ago. There's a scenario where Billy Wiles, who's playing as a redshirt sophomore, after winning this job, could be a 3-year starter at Southern Miss. If things go well and he wants to stay that long and Southern Miss wants him there that long and all those things, it would be crazy, right, to look up and, 3 years from now or the beginning of 2 seasons from now, here you got Billy Wiles once again potentially as the starter.
Yeah, I mean, because you look back, Southern Miss has basically had – you got to go back to Jack Abraham where you had the same starter, multiple years in a row. And that would be, I think, huge for this offense. And, I kind of asked Will not to, show his cards on air, but at the same time, like, what are we going to see different? And I do think that there is a coolness, a calm about Will this year when talking about like execution and what they're going to put on the field offensively, that he feels just completely different. And I think all that goes to he knows that he has a quarterback that can run this system for multiple years. What if they get tracking? You got to start asking the question. Is Hall here in 3 years? If Billy Wiles has a great year this year and a good year next year, that's what you have to deal with. And that's just, it's not just players. It's what you're dealing with the reality of the landscape.
Story from about 15 minutes ago on the New York Jets website that has got a little bit of a video interview with Jason Brownlee, former Golden Eagle who has officially made the team. Says the first person he called after he made the team was his mom, and he has a smile on his face. He is grinning ear to ear. What a cool story.
Great story. I was reading today more about him, of course. Didn't really have any offers coming out of high school. Went to East Mississippi. Hey, Dad should be proud. It's a Golden Triangle kid up there. And goes to East and then comes to Southern Miss, undrafted free agent. And then, there was talks where the Jets were kind of looking at him in like the mid rounds and just kind of held their breath. But he was, one of the top dynamic players on offense in camp. And, I think he kind of led them in receiving in the preseason as well. I think he's got a chance if he gets on the field to move quick. It could be like a guy like Quez Watkins, where you see him in year 2 or year 3 like starting, and because he will be a great number 2 receiver if he gets the opportunity. Doesn't drop passes, is shifty enough to make people miss, and pretty cool how undrafted free agent. Eagles also have Natron Brooks with the Falcons, another undrafted free agent. He's got a chance to make the 53-man as well.
I just wonder about the situation in New York also, where there was no preconceived notion for Aaron Rodgers, right? He had, obviously Randall Cobb's there, and there's a long relationship. Randall Cobb's getting the football. But if you're a young guy and you come in and you pick up on things and you catch the ball and you do all the stuff you're supposed to do, I don't know that there's any reason to think that Jason Brownlee can't earn the trust, even though he is a rookie that was an undrafted free agent of an Aaron Rodgers, because you don't have existing relationships that you're necessarily trying to overcome.
It's a clean slate. And one thing, if we know about Brownlee from his time at Southern Miss, he's like a magnetic field for the football. He would win most 50-50 balls. And just for him, I think it's about staying healthy and just taking advantage of the situations where it comes. They are deep at receiver. And that was one of the things, as good as he had been, would he make the 53-man because of how deep they were. And he's made it today. Just really cool. Any time a player in the state of Mississippi makes it, to a 53-man, but the fact that he was an undrafted free agent is just all the more cool.
It's exceptional. There is no question. A little strange that we don't have junior college football this Thursday night. They're starting a week later this year, so we'll have to wait on that for Jones. But you're on the call for the 104th battle of the Little Brown Jug.
Yeah, Friday night between the bricks. Hattiesburg comes to Laurel. Hattiesburg won it last year, so Laurel's trying to win it back. And, we'll be broadcasting on WLAU 99.3. Should be fun. That game's always fun when you look at the history of it. They just redid the Laurel Fieldhouse and touched up the memorabilia room. And so you go in there, you see all the Big 8 trophies. They've actually now got a framed Seattle Seahawks jersey from Charles Cross. So pretty incredible.
That is very cool. Did I get the number right? Is it 104? Or you still have some research you've got to do?
It floats occasionally because you have to go back and count. There's they played it during World War II and World War. So anyway, it just gets confusing. When we hear
your other option would be World War I. By the way, we've only had 2 of those.
We won both. I'm fully aware of that.
Yes. Thankfully, did not finish in second place in either of those. All right, Luke.